Hello, just checking in briefly for one of those unscripted kind of rambles. Now, there's been a bit of a sea change in my stats the last few days, quite a dramatic one actually. The result being that there's been this sudden spike in the views on the pulp warlit type of novels, with a particular emphasis on Leo Kesslers, on whom some years ago now I did one on the first book in his Votan series, and suddenly I'm getting 40, 50 views a day on that one, which was kind of crawling away otherwise. It was, I'd be lucky if I got a view a week on it, but suddenly up go the stats on that, down they go on the Elvis title. Sorry Elvis, you've been bumped off #1 again, along with the various other war pulps I've discussed, the Sven Hassels, the Leo Kesslers, the Willi Heinrichs, the various lesser known authors, possibly sort of ghost authors or people working under fake names, dabbling in that area, which was so popular, I suppose, up till a point in the 80s. Now, there's a couple of possible explanations for this. One is that Arron Hook very kindly just gave me a shout out a few days ago. If you don't know his channel, go and have a look. I'll post the link down below. But he very kindly gave me a shout out in his review. He's reviewed the same Kessler book recently, so go have a look at that. But I don't know if all this might be a sort of ripple effect from the fact that, now this struck me as quite bizarre, that a well-known, quite well-regarded YouTube war historian Mark Felton suddenly, about a week ago of all things, did a video on who was Sven Hassels, basically, which possibly has just kind of got the algorithms buzzing on that particular area. But it's quite strange what the algorithms will do, and it's an odd area of fiction. It's there was a massive appetite for it, these kind of things, when I was at school, kind of books with titles like they ought to be heavy metal albums. There was a massive appetite during my sort of childhood and early teens. I think it was people like me graduating from, if you'd been brought up as a kid gluing together Airfix kits and reading all those comics like Battle and Warlord and so on. It seemed the sort of next step on to sort of, it's quite a leap from Warlord to a thing like this in terms of adult themes and just sort of general unsavouriness of some of these titles, which, sort of revisiting them in adult life. I mean, it's quite amusing in a certain ways. I don't know. I'm kind of a bit puzzled at myself that I took them so seriously, I suppose, as a young thing. But a lot of them, authenticity really isn't there. They are very pulpy. They're obviously written churned out very quickly for a hungry mass market, and there's a certain amount of attention to historical detail. But I don't think the authors felt particularly constrained by any notions of accuracy, put it that way. Is there a handy genre name for this area of fiction? I think I've referred to it in the past as Landslit, but maybe there's a better one. How about Verabooks? See what I did there? But this leads me to, I've been tinkering away at scripting one for quite a while and never got round to finishing it. And I think partly I've been a bit kind of recalcitrant about it, just that, I don't know, I'm conscious that this book, it has a very, very dedicated audience. Sort of almost culty sort of fan club, resulting in these almost unanimous 5-star scores on Goodreads and Amazon and so on, and glowing praise. I can't say I'm a member of that fan club. Now, I've owned a copy of this book. Do we need to talk about Guy Sajer and his Forgotten Soldier? Yeah, I've owned a copy for many years. In fact, I think this is the second copy I've had. I think the binding fell apart on the first, and this one I've probably had for the last 10 or 12 years, part way through scripting a review on it. Now, I'm not saying this book is without its value as a wartime memoir, a stroke novel. We'll get into that if I ever get around to doing this review, but I just never feel I'm reading the same book that these 5-star review people have read. I'm not getting the same thing off these pages that those people seem to be getting for whatever reason. I do feel this is, I have tried with this book over the years, and many times, and I've always kind of come away feeling a bit frustrated with it for a number of reasons, and I just have a feeling it does have its problem areas, which I think a percentage of its fan club probably won't want to hear from me. But I don't know. Anyone else out there? I'm going to regret asking this, but anyone else out there is familiar with this one and has views on it, or should I go ahead with this? Maybe it's not worth the arseache. I suppose I could always turn the comments off, but I tend on that subject. I think when I first started doing war-related novels, I just would turn the comments off, just sort of knowing, sort of feeling what to expect when you talk about this area of history on the internet. But I think back then I didn't realise that you could set a certain amount of level of control within YouTube over comments, and also the war-related books that I have enabled comments on have not yet had the sort of level of flaky old Neo type of stuff that I might have expected. I was pleasantly surprised, really. So yeah, maybe, I don't know, let me know your thoughts.